Beneath the ruins, something ancient refuses to die. A young thief heard the legend, treasure hidden beneath a forgotten king's palace. No one who went looking ever came back to say what they found. He descended anyway. Thieves rarely survive their own curiosity. 3,000 years ago, this palace held the greatest king alive. He built a civilization from nothing, and the gods noticed his arrogance. He demanded eternity from dark gods, and the dark gods agreed. The gift arrived not as grace, but as a sentence with no end date. At first, he thought it was the greatest blessing ever given to a man. He married a woman who saw through the crown to the man beneath. Then the years passed, and only he stopped aging. His queen aged, his children aged. He watched every single one of them die. Grief without an ending does not heal. It calcifies. By the 2nd century, his kingdom no longer recognized what sat on the throne. They came with priests and demands. He answered them with silence and stayed. Eventually they stopped coming, and so did everyone else. He descended into the palace catacombs and sealed himself beneath the ruins. Down there in the dark, the centuries finished their work on him. Now back in the present, the thief's torch pushes into the lower chambers. The treasure was real. Gold artifacts half buried in centuries of rubble. Then the torch caught something that was not gold and was not stone. It had not moved in so long the dust had settled on it like a second skin. The king's voice when it came was something between speech and stone grinding. He said, "You are not the first, you will not be the last. Leave." But the thief didn't run. They saw something the others must have missed behind the monster, carved into the wall. Thousands of names, every person he had ever loved, carved by his own hand so he would not forget. The thief understood then, this was not a monster's lair. It was a tomb. The king turned, and for the first time in centuries, he looked at a living person. He did not ask the thief's name. He asked how long he had been down here. 300 years. The king repeated it like a man hearing his own verdict. He showed the thief the journals. Centuries of writings in a dead language, every person he outlived. Every dynasty that rose and fell while he watched. The thief asked the only question that mattered. Why not just let yourself die? He said nothing for so long the thief thought he hadn't understood. Then he spoke, and what he said was not the answer the thief expected. He said, "I have tried. The gods did not give me the option of ending. Not a curse in the way songs describe it. A precision, a cage made of time." The thief looked at the king and saw not a monster, but a man in ruins. He had been a great king once. The ruins above were proof enough of that. The thief made a decision that would change both of their lives. They sat down for the first time in centuries. Someone chose to stay in the dark with him. He spoke for hours, Warren, in a language the thief couldn't understand, but didn't need to. He told the story of his queen, and the thief saw the grief was still completely fresh. Some losses don't obey time. They simply stay and stay and stay. Dawn light began to filter through the ceiling cracks. They had been there all night. The king stood and walked to the sealed door and opened it from the inside. He stepped out into a world 300 years newer than the one he remembered. The thief stood behind him and asked, "What happens now?" The king looked at the horizon, the one he had watched 10,000 times. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the answer wasn't nothing. He told the thief, "Go. Tell them what you found beneath the palace. Tell them the king is still there, not hiding anymore. Just waiting." Waiting for what? He did not say, and the thief did not ask. Some curses, when you stop fighting them, begin to feel like something else. He walked back down to the treasury, not to hide, but to begin. He sat at the stone ledge and opened the journal where he had last stopped writing. And he began to write in a language no one else alive could read. Writing for whoever comes next, because someone always comes next. The curse of the Immortal King was not that he couldn't die. It was that he could. He could feel everything. Love, loss, grief, and none of it would ever stop. That is not a curse most people would survive. He simply had no choice. And somewhere above the ruins, the thief was already telling the story. Stories are the only immortality that actually works. The king knew this now. The ruins stand. The name is forgotten. The story is the only thing that remains. 3,000 years, and somewhere beneath the stone, he is still writing. The dark gods gave him eternity, but they never managed to take away his grief. For more stories like this, like, share, and subscribe.